This training is on crime victim compensation. This is a safe place training presented by Callie Belt. Crime victims compensation is a resource available to the clients we serve, and as advocates, we can offer our knowledge of the program to empower and offer resources to our clients. Eligibility to receive help from crime victims compensation includes a person who was injured as a direct result of a crime in Michigan, a sexual assault victim, a person who was injured while trying to help a crime victim, a surviving spouse, parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, brother or sister of a person who died as a direct result of a crime, and a Michigan resident injured in another state that doesn't pay compensation for a non-resident. Anyone can be a victim of a crime, and the physical, emotional, and financial impact of trauma can last far beyond the crime itself. Remember, you are not alone. The Crime Victim Compensation Program is a program to help pay out-of-pocket medical expenses, lost earnings, funeral bills, counseling, or other expenses for people who have been harmed as a direct result of a crime. Covered costs for victims include hospital bills and medical expenses, loss of wages, counseling for the injured person and family members, non-traditional counseling and therapies, replacement services needed because of the person's injury, and sexual assault forensic examination. Covered costs for survivors include funeral and burial expenses, crime scene cleanup, loss of support for legal dependents of the person who died, and grief counseling for the family. What's not covered in the Crime Victim Compensation Program? Property loss or damage, pain and suffering, relocation costs, living expenses, or the cost of participating in a trial, and the loss of earnings for an injured person's family members. It is important to note that crime victim compensation is a last resort. Private insurance or other public funds must be utilized first in order to be eligible for compensation.
Welcome to this webinar on crime victim compensation eligibility requirements. The Crime Victim Services Compensation Program provides financial assistance to victims who are personally physically injured as a direct result of a crime in the state of Michigan. This means actual bodily injury. Crime Victim Services compensation often is confused with restitution. The judge would order restitution, and it is reinforced through the court system. We are not restitution, however, we do coordinate with the court if we make a payment. We are going to go through eligibility requirements for compensation benefits for crime victims in the state of Michigan. The maximums that we can cover is a total of $25,000 maximum payable per victim per crime. We can pay up to $5,000 for burial, up to $500 for grief counseling, up to $500 for crime scene cleanup, and for loss of support or earnings, we can pay up to $350 a week. We also provide counseling up to 35 sessions. 8 of them can be family of non-offending members. We pay $80 for a licensed therapist and $125 for a licensed psychiatrist. We provide assistance with medical bills, counseling, loss of earning, burial, loss of support, dental, safe response, traveling expenses, rehabilitative, replacement services, crime scene cleanup, and grief counseling. Crime Victim Services is the payer of last resort. All other resources must be utilized first. They could include health insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, life insurance, charity, disability, homeowners, no-fault auto, restitution, workers' compensation, or other resources that may be available. We will coordinate benefits, and we may be able to pay for co-pays and/or deductibles. A victim is the individual who is personally physically injured as a direct result of a crime. It could also be an intervener, who is somebody that comes to the aid of another crime victim. Again, there must be actual bodily harm. We do not cover secondary victims, which could be a victim who is witnessing a crime such as domestic violence. If a victim is a minor, deceased, or mentally incapacitated, then someone must file a claim on their behalf, and that's called a claimant. A claimant is a spouse, a parent, grandparent, grandchild, child, sibling, or a legal guardian. Effective February 29, 2008, we had a change in the definition of claimant for homicide victims. It now states a surviving person related to the victim by blood or affinity, a guardian, personal representative, or a member of the same household as the victim. Part of the requirements for eligibility is the victim must report the crime within 48 hours to law enforcement. We can waive this 48 hours for good cause. Good cause could be as simple as a child afraid to come forward or the victim being hospitalized. A victim also must file a claim with Crime Victim Services Compensation within 1 year from the date of crime or discovery. Again, we can waive this for good cause. The victim must cooperate with investigation, court hearings, and the Crime Victim Services Commission. A defendant does not have to be charged in order to be eligible unless it is due to the fault of the victim, which is considered non-cooperation. A victim was home when someone attempted to break in. She called the police and the perpetrator was arrested. The victim filed the claim with Crime Victim Services for counseling. Can we assist with counseling? No, we cannot, because the victim, fortunately, was not physically injured, and remember that in order to be eligible for compensation, a victim must sustain a personal physical injury. We can provide assistance with medical bills. There needs to be a minimum out-of-pocket loss of $200. However, this can be waived for sexual assault victims or victims retired due to age or disability. The victim would submit itemized medical bills, explanation of benefits if they have insurance, and they also must follow the contractual requirements of their insurance. We can provide psychological counseling up to 35 hourly sessions. Of those 35 hourly sessions, 8 of them can be family sessions for non-offending family members and victims. We pay up to $80 for a licensed or registered therapist, up to $125 for a licensed psychologist or a physician. The victim must submit the initial assessment, goal-oriented treatment plan, itemized bills, and if there's any type of insurance, explanation of benefits. A child needs counseling due to physical assault. A rapport was previously established with the therapist. However, the child's therapist does not participate with the family insurance company. What can a parent do? A, find a therapist in their insurance network. B, pay for the child's therapy out of their own pocket. Or C, call Crime Victim Services. The answer is C. Due to a previous rapport, it is in the best interest of the victim to continue therapy with someone they are familiar with. If you do come up with some of these situations, please feel free to give us a call so we can assist you. We can also provide assistance with loss of earnings if the victim is disabled for 2 continuous weeks. We can waive that requirement for sexual assault victims or victims retired due to age or disability. We need pay stubs, including the dates paid, gross, net, and tax deductions. We also will require a written disability statement from the physician. We can pay up to $350 a week, and we would consider any type of collateral resource such as long-term, short-term disability, workers' comp, or any other resource that is available. A child was physically abused and the parent felt it was best to stay home from work for a week to help the victim heal and feel safe. Is this parent eligible for loss of earnings? No, we can only cover loss of earnings if the victim is physically injured and unable to return to work due to their physical disability. We can also provide assistance for loss of support if the victim is deceased and if the deceased victim had minor children or a spouse dependent on the victim. They must submit child support order, federal tax returns, and if there's any other resources such as Social Security survivor benefits or life insurance, that would be considered a collateral resource and we would coordinate those benefits. We can cover funeral and burial expenses up to $5,000. We can only cover expenses directly related to the disposition of the body. We do not cover clergy, obituaries, headstones, etc. And again, we have this definition for a claimant for homicide victims effective February 29th, 2008. Again, that could be a surviving person related to the victim by blood or affinity, a guardian, personal representative, or a member of the same household as the victim. We can cover grief counseling for homicide crimes. The maximum amount we can pay is $500. We can provide counseling for homicide victims' spouse, children, parents, siblings, grandparents, and grandchildren. The $5,000 is aggregate for all the listed above. We can also cover crime scene cleanup for homicide crimes only. We can pay up to $500, but the crime scene must be located at the residence of the victim or a person eligible for an award. The definition of eligibility is a surviving spouse, parent, grandparent, child, sibling, or a grandchild of a victim of a crime who died as a result of the crime. If a victim sustains a life-altering injury, such as becoming a paraplegic, our goal would to assist with regaining safety, independence, and accessibility. We might be able to assist with a ramp going into the victim's home, possibly driving aids, maybe some home modifications so the home is now wheelchair accessible, maybe widened doorways or shower accessibility modifications. We would ask that the victim submits a prescription from their physician stating the rehabilitative needs they need, and then also 2 cost estimates. We can also cover replacement services, which were tasks that were previously performed by the victim, but due to the injury, these tasks must be performed by another person. They must have a prescription from the physician and a notarized statement from the individual performing the service. Replacement services could include snow removal, home health care, lawn care, or child care. We can also cover travel costs if necessary medical treatment is not available locally, and I can give you some situations on that. We had a victim injured in the UP and needed specific treatment that was not available, so we had to pay for mileage for the victim to travel to Traverse City. We also had a victim who had lye thrown in her face, was Medicaid eligible, so we did not need to cover any of her medical bills, however needed specific treatment at the Cleveland Clinic. We were able to give her a round-trip bus ticket and also negotiate a hotel room for the night before surgery. If you have these circumstances, please call us for further information. And again, travel costs is only available if necessary medical treatment is not available locally. We do not reimburse loss of or damage to personal property, non-economic detriment in the form of pain and suffering, costs of participating in a trial, living expenses, relocation costs, or secondary victims. The main denial reasons are for non-cooperation. A victim must cooperate with a police investigation, show up to court if they're subpoenaed, and they need to provide documentation to Crime Victim Services so that we can determine eligibility. A claim would be denied for misconduct if the victim is involved in an illegal activity, possibly throwing the first punch, or pursuing a fight. If the victim is criminally responsible for their injuries, such as breaking and entering or a robbery, we too would deny that claim. If a victim is injured in a federal, state, or local correctional facility, we would deny that claim as well, as all medical bills should go to the correctional facility. If a claim is awarded or denied, the victim has the right to appeal the claim. They can submit a written request within 30 days. They can request a commission review where the 5 commission members who are appointed by the governor would review the file. Or they can request an evidentiary hearing where they could either show up in person or call in and they would be able to speak to the commission members directly. It's not advantageous one way or the other. If the commission members can assist the victim through an appeal process, they would do that. The victim also has the opportunity, if the commission denies their appeal, to go to the Court of Appeals. Applications and brochures are available in English, Spanish, and Arabic. They are available on our website or call our office, www.michigan.gov/crime victims. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to the contact information on the screen. Thank you.
Shelter interactions with crime victim compensation information. So during intakes, we give out an informational pamphlet and the advocate discusses with that client about the services and program available and eligibility. Advocates give out that informational pamphlet explaining the program as a resource, as well as client requests. During their stay in shelter, clients may come to the resource center to ask about resources to help with financial assistance, providing domestic violence information and resources during a crisis call, also if appropriate for financial assistance needed.
I was sleeping. It was about 4:30 in the morning, and I heard my dog. He woke me up growling, and it was then that I saw the man coming toward me. Following the attack, I felt a complete loss of control in my life, and the Crime Victims Compensation Program empowered me and helped me to regain some of that control.
If you've been physically injured in a violent crime, call us.
Life is really, really good now.
Thank you again for attending the training on crime victim compensation. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Also, it is important to note that our legal advocates do cover this topic as well in their crisis intervention training.